your presence today. It's our fourth Eurêka chat. This time with Mathieu Lefond from Vernier. And now I will leave the floor to my ambassador, François-Xavier Léger. Thank you very much.
Your ambassador. I'm joking. So yes, so this is the fourth session of Eurêka Chat. This is we try to promote knowledge about, let's say, about technologies and science, and we take the opportunity of all the goodwills to do it in every field. And today it will be so about renewable energies. And that it's good because France, we are quite committed to this field of renewable energies. And Vernier, a French company, here specialized in renewable energy with Mathieu, based here in Fiji for now a little bit of time, a few months, let's say. Shows this commitment that France is having. And so it shows that how we can promote some technologies and how we can somehow materialize that political commitment we have through some technologies and somehow know-how. So we have also the French Development Agency here, AFD, not here with us today, but here in Fiji. They opened an office just in February. And their main topic in every project they are supporting, they are always climate, energy transition, climate, and fight against climate change, sustainable development. And to give you an example which is not related to renewable energies, we have a big project which is Pacific Organic Learning Farm Network to support 340 smallholder farmers in Fiji, Nauru, Tonga, Solomon Islands, and to promote organic and agroecological practices, including renewable energy components, such as solar-powered irrigation systems and bioenergy from organic waste, for example. So it contributes to both food security and environmental sustainability. Another initiative is PEBACC+, Pacific Ecosystem-Based Adaptation to Climate Change Plus. Why plus? I don't know. So it's 5.8 million euro, and the idea is to increase the resilience of ecosystems, of communities to climate change impact in several Pacific countries, including obviously Fiji, and it promotes nature-based solutions like reforestation, agroforestry, and support renewable energy goals by enhancing carbon sequestration and providing, for example, sustainable biomass. Another one, which is WISH Plus, another plus, Watershed Intervention for System Health Plus project, 6.6 million euro, implemented in Fiji, Solomon Islands, and Papua New Guinea. So obviously it integrates watershed management with renewable energy solutions, such as hydro system and solar-powered water purification, providing long-term sustainable benefits for both environmental and local communities. So it shows that, just to give you a few examples of the programs that we are conducting here with our local partners, and to try to promote a sustainable future for the sake of everybody, including local communities. So today it's more or less an interactive session. So there will be initial presentation by Mathieu, but then it should be followed, thanks to you, by a Q&A session, and everybody is strongly encouraged to share experiences, thoughts, questions, comments about it. And obviously, as this is a French Alliance Française, so we'll be happy to share with you some drink and finger food after, so we can continue that conversation all together here in a very convivial way. Thank you so much. I wish you a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Mathieu?
Ouais.
So now I will give the floor to Mathieu. Mathieu Lefond from Vernier.
Thank you very much for attending this presentation. So I'm going to be presenting renewable energies through my topic, which is Empowering Tomorrow, a journey through renewable energies. Oops. Just gonna start. All right, so hello everybody. My name is Matthew Lufon. I'm a project manager and engineer at Eurêka Pacific. So we're a company that develops, constructs, and designs renewable energy projects, whether it be solar projects or wind projects. And yeah, so I'm going to be presenting Empowering Tomorrow. I'll be speaking a little bit about energy in general, about renewable energies, about Fiji's energy mix. So what is energy? Energy is the capacity to do work or produce change. We can see it in various forms, such as heat. We can see it through light. We can hear it through sound. We can distinguish two main categories of energy. The first one is kinetic energy. So that's the energy of movement. It's when, for example, mechanical energy, if we see a car that's moving, that's energy that's in movement. If we see, I don't know, like a fire, it's transmitting heat from one body to another, so it's in movement. The other category of energy is potential energy. So that's energy that is stored. You can see it, for example, in a battery. It can deliver energy, but it needs to be enabled to transmit its energy. Another example would be an elastic or a spring. If you compress the spring, it wants to deliver energy, but you're resisting, so it's not going to create any movement until you release it. So it's got the potential to move. A good example is a ball on a hill. It's got the potential to get speed, but you need to enable it to get speed. Thank you. We didn't practice that part. So now a little history of energy. History has been omnipresent in our societies. It's what has driven technological advancements. And the fact that we were able to harness energy meant that we could use our own body's energy for other things, such as thinking. And that's what led us to be able to do things like intellectual, social, or artistic pursuits. So our history with energy started about 1 million years ago, when we started the first fires. The fact that we were making fires meant that we didn't have to spend so much time digesting food. We could use our body's energy to in our minds, and that's why humans have such complex minds, because we can spend more energy thinking. 6,000 years ago, in 6,000 BC, we started using animals' mechanical energy instead of using our own, which meant we could produce more without using our own body's energy. In 5000 BC, we started using wind to sail, so we could go way further than we used to. In 2500 BC, humans were using hydraulic mills. In 200 BC, wind power was used in pumping systems. In 200 AD, Romans were using hydraulic systems. So what we can see from all these examples is that technological advancements were quite spread out through time. They would happen over centuries or millennia. So they were quite slow. And all of these advancements were through renewable energies. And that changed in 1712 when James Watt revolutionized industry and transportation with the invention of the steam engine. Because the steam engine meant that we could start creating and using energy in places where we used to not be able to. Because before that, we had to create energy wherever there was a resource for it. And so to power these steam engines, we needed fuel. And that's why in the 1800s, we started using coal as the main driver of the Industrial Revolution. So the Industrial era revolutionized production and transportation, leading to rapid technological advancements, mass manufacturing, and significant economic and societal transformations. It was also an era for scientific development, especially in the sector of energy. In 1821, Michael Faraday discovered electromagnetic induction. So that was super important because it basically means that he discovered that if you rotate a magnet and put a piece of metal wire around it, it'll create an electrical field in the wire. So that was quite useful. And we see it in most inventions today, most technologies. In the 1880s, Tesla and Edison were working on electricity for lighting and power. And thanks to them, we have power in basically everybody's home. In the 1930s, we started using nuclear energy. So that was a new source of energy. It was not fossil fuel, it wasn't renewable energies. And in the 1950s, we were actually producing electricity through nuclear power. By the 1970s, we were very reliant on fossil fuels because we had gone through the whole industrial revolution with them. But there came an oil crisis, and we started realizing that we were extremely reliant on it, and that it could actually pose a certain threat to our societies if there was an oil crisis. And then in the 2000s, there was a rapid growth in renewable energy technologies because we started realizing that fossil fuels and carbon emissions were actually changing climate. So why did we shift to fossil fuels in the first place? We shifted to fossil fuels because we needed to bring energy for the Industrial Revolution, and we needed a really big amount of energy for that. Coal was a good source for that because it has a high energy density, which means that it can produce more energy by unit of mass than a lot of energies. If we look at the table over there, we can see that, for example, wood would bring 16 megajoules of energy per kilogram, whereas coal is about 1.5 times that. And then diesel is about 3 times that. So it was quite an efficient energy. It was quite useful. And the other reason why coal was useful was that it was quite abundant, especially in England where the Industrial Revolution started. And then technological advancements also meant that we could mine and extract fossil fuels quite easily. So it was a great source at the time. We can distinguish 3 main sources of energy. The first one is fossil fuels. So we've got coal, oil, and natural gas in there. The second one is renewable energies. We've got solar, wind, hydropower, and biomass. And then the third one is nuclear. So throughout history, we can see on that curve, it's the orange part at the bottom, that we were using mostly biomass. So it was used for heating our homes, for cooking. And that was for most of history until the Industrial Revolution, when coal picked up, oil and natural gases also. We consume a considerable amount of energy compared to the 19th century, so about 31 times more. To be fair, population has also risen, but only 7-fold. So, and nowadays, 82% of energy consumption comes from fossil fuels. If we look at which sectors consume the most energy, the industrial sector consumes the most, and more than half. So it consumes 54% of energy. That includes manufacturing, mining, construction, and agriculture. The second sector that consumes the most is the transportation sector, which consumes 28% of energy. The third sector is the residential one, which accounts for 11% of energy consumption. And then the commercial sector accounts for 7% of consumption. So why do we have to shift away from fossil fuels? There are a lot of reasons. The first one is the environmental impact that it has. When we burn fossil fuels, we emit huge amounts of greenhouse gases, the first one being carbon dioxide. If we look at the graph over there, the one on top, we can't, I don't know if you can read it right, but basically the three big bars are fossil fuels, and the small ones are renewable energies. So basically coal consumes, gas consumes 10 times more, will emit 10 times more carbon dioxide per unit of energy than solar power. Oil will emit 17 times more, and then coal 20 times more. The other environmental impact that it has is that it releases some other gases that are not greenhouse gases, but that are very toxic. The first one is sulfur dioxide, and the second one is nitrogen oxide. And then when we burn and emit, when we burn fossil fuels and emit carbon dioxide, we also, the carbon dioxide is absorbed by the oceans. This causes oceans to be more acid, and so it can really harm natural life in the oceans. The second reason is for health concerns. Air pollution from fossil fuels is linked to numerous diseases. It can cause asthma, lung cancer, and heart diseases. Air pollution accounts for about 7 million deaths per year. That's about the same amount of deaths that there have been during COVID. And then another health concern is water contamination that can happen during spills, leaks, and runoffs. And then the third big concern is social concerns. It's a finite resource. At some point, we know that if we continue with the same rhythm, there's not going to be any more fossil fuels left. So if we put all our eggs in the same basket and rely too much on fossil fuels, it'll have a big impact when we don't have any left. And then there's energy security. We can't extract fossil fuels everywhere. Some countries are more dependent on others to import the fuel, and that can have a big impact, especially during big global crises. So that's the main reason why we need to shift away from fossil fuels. And renewable energies are a good solution because we're still consuming that much energy. It's just we need to find a cleaner way to consume that energy. Even though one of the good solutions is also trying to consume less and finding very efficient systems. So renewable energy is a term that designates energy that is produced through resources that replenish themselves over a short period of time. There are 5 main types of renewable energies sources. The first one is wind. The second one, geothermal. Then we've got hydro, biomass, and solar. So hydro energy is produced through the movement of water. In 2023, it accounted for 7.6% of electricity production. It grew 11% in 10 years from 2013 to 2023. And 1.4 million people in the world currently are employed in hydro. So basically the way it works is just having a dam, and gravity will make the water flow down, which will make a turbine turn. And thanks to Faraday, we can create electricity through that. It's a good source of energy because it replenishes itself through the water cycle. Once the dam is built, it does not emit any carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases. It's reliable and efficient because we can produce electricity whenever we want to, and we can stop it whenever we want to. It's that thing I was talking about with the two categories of energy. We can have kinetic energy when we want, and when we can store it through potential energy. And then it's also got multi-purpose benefits because we can use it not only for energy, but for irrigation, flood control, and water supply. So then wind energy is the process of generating energy by converting the kinetic energy from wind into any other type of energy. So that can be mechanical power that is then transformed into electricity, or like the windmills to pound flour into mechanical energy. So wind power accounted for 7.6% of electricity production in 2023. It rose 360% in 10 years, so it's quite significant. And it employed 1.4 million people in 2023. It's a sustainable source of energy because it can be, it harnesses energy that is constant. That will never run out. We'll always have wind on Earth. It's got a low environmental impact. It's quite cost effective. Its cost has gone down drastically in the last couple of years. And it's scalable. We can make small wind turbines to big wind farms to produce large amounts of electricity. And the wind turbines over there are the ones in Sigatoka. Yeah. So then solar power is the process of generating electricity or energy through radiant energy of sunlight. It accounted for about 6% of electricity production in 2023. It rose 445% in 10 years, which is also significant. And 4.5 million people are currently employed in solar power. It's like wind, it's a sustainable resource because it's inexhaustible. There are quite diverse technologies of solar power. The first one is photovoltaic power, which is the process of creating electricity through sunlight. Then there's solar thermal and concentrated solar power, which is basically using mirrors that will focus sunlight on one spot and heat it up, and we can create thermal power through it, or electricity. It's got a low operating cost. It's quite a simple technology. Once it's installed, there doesn't need to be a lot of maintenance. So it's quite good for isolated zones. It's a scalable solution. We can see very big solar farms to small solar panels on rooftops. It's made of abundant resources also. A solar panel is basically just made of glass, silicon, and aluminum. And they have a lifespan of 20 to 30 years, which is pretty good. Then we've got biomass, which is making energy through organic matter. So that accounted for 2% of electricity production in 2023. It rose 25% from 2013 to 2023. It employs 3.5 million people in the world. So if it's managed sustainably, it can be a good source of, it can be a low carbon source of energy. It participates in waste reduction because it can be used to create energy, and if it had not been used to create energy, we would have just thrown it away, and it would have just emitted greenhouse gases through decomposition. So it's kind of a sort of recycling. And it's got quite versatile applications. We can use biomass for electricity, heat, biofuels. And then it's quite good also for rural development because it can create jobs in places where you would only have agriculture. So it can be a byproduct of agriculture. Yeah. And then there's geothermal, which harnesses the heat from the earth to create or heat or electricity. So that accounted only for 0.3% of electricity production. It rose 30% in 10 years, and it accounts for 0.5 million jobs in the world. So it's renewable and sustainable because we're never going to run out from that Earth's heat. It's got low emissions once we've installed the power plant. It's reliable and consistent, unlike wind and solar, which we can't really control. The Earth's heat is constant, so we can just create energy, use energy whenever we want to. And there are wide applications because we can use it for direct heating and electricity. But one of the main drawbacks is that you can only have geothermal energy in certain zones because you have to, it has to be next to a heat zone, so usually next to volcanoes. So that's why it's not as widespread as we would like it to be. So why should we shift to renewable energies? I'm just going to give you some common points that renewable energies have. The first one is that they produce little greenhouse emissions. Yeah, we should have trained. It's unlike fossil fuels, they're not a finite resource. Renewable energies are usually quite abundant. We've got wind everywhere in the world. We've got solar. We've got sunlight everywhere in the world. Renewable energies also participate to energy security. Being able to produce electricity on your own territory means that you're not dependent on other countries and really participates to your independence. They also create a large amount of jobs because you need jobs over the whole value chain, whether it be in manufacturing, in installation, maintenance, and operations. You'll need a lot of people working on it, so it can really create opportunities. Right now in the world, there are about 13.7 million people employed. That was in 2022. So it's got to be more now. And most of them are in solar, then liquid biofuels, hydro, and wind. And these technologies are quite cost competitive. It was not necessarily the case before, but as we start using these technologies more and more, their prices have gone significantly lower. So now just a few words about Fiji's energy mix. So Fiji uses 40% oil, 54% hydro, and then 6% other, which is basically just biomass, solar and wind, but mostly biomass. Fiji's energy sector has gone up 15%. We can see it on that curve over there. And so Fiji's got some energy goals through the national energy policy. And it was aiming to produce about 90% renewable energies by 2025, and then 99% by 2030. But those are very, very ambitious goals. Yeah, we're not really close to them for the moment. So at least for the 2025 one, it's going to be kind of hard. But Fiji definitely does have the potential for renewable energies. Biomass grows really easily here. There are rivers for hydro. There are places with wind and solar. And they can also participate to the dependence of remote areas and the outer islands, because they can produce their own energy on their land. So Fiji's wind potential. We can see that there's potential on Viti Levu and Vanua Levu, and a little bit on Kandavu and Taveuni. And if you look at the graph, it's got above average wind potential compared to the rest of the world. It's just on very specific zones. Fiji's got also a very high solar potential, not in Suva obviously. It's mostly on the west coast of Viti Levu and Vanua Levu. And it's also got an above average solar potential. What's good about solar is that it can be coupled with other technologies, such as water pumping, desalination, water cleaning. So it's good for that, and it can really help some isolated zones. And Fiji's got quite stable solar irradiation all year round. It's not too affected by seasons, a little bit, but not too much. So the benefits of renewable energies for Fiji wouldn't be electrifying some isolated zones, some villages that do not have electricity yet, and that rely on or diesel power or biomass. Energy independence, because they would be able to produce their own energy and not be dependent on other countries. It can also create jobs out here, and it would lower the footprint of Fiji. Thank you for your attention, and yeah, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Matt. I was surprised to find out that Fiji has 54% hydroelectricity already.
Yeah.
Where are the main dams, and yeah, where are they generating most of that electricity? Just curious.
So that's in Viti Levu. In Viti Levu. I wouldn't exactly know the name of the place, but it's in Monasavu. Yeah. Okay. So Monasavu.
About a year ago, it may already be 2 years ago, I had a talk with Theo regarding it. He was your predecessor, right? And he was based in Suva, but he was using Fiji as a base because he had difficulties to convince EFL to look into his project. So I would just like a little update about the situation. I understand that you have revived the wind energy in Singatoka, because you had a windmill, but for a period of time they were down because they were not maintained. So can you just update us about regarding what your company is doing in Fiji right now?
Yeah. So it has not been easy developing renewable energy projects in the past, for sure. I think that Fiji's look on renewable energy has significantly changed, and EFL's look also at it. They are currently looking at new projects. We can see that they're releasing tenders and expressions of interest. So they are, and they also have policies now because they have the 2023-2030 policy for energy. So it is definitely something that is that they are thinking of. I think there's a change of mentality. It's also they needed to see what renewable energy projects look like outside of Fiji. I know that we had a few people from EFL come to our company and see our wind turbines. So I think it is something that they'll definitely develop soon. But their goals are a little bit ambitious. I think it might take a little bit more time to be 100% renewable.
Thanks, Matthew, for this very interesting presentation. Can you please tell us a little bit about your company, Dermet, and what it does in the region, or generally what it does, and which countries it's most active in, etc.?
Yeah. So Verrier is a company that was created in Orléans, and the main kind of like goal of the company at first was to be able to export wind projects in isolated zones. So it created its own wind turbine that could be put in cyclonic zones and reach some places where we could not put wind before. And then so it created a few subsidiaries a little bit everywhere in the world because we had projects in the Caribbean, we had projects in Africa, and we had projects in the Pacific. Currently I'm working for Verrier Pacific, so we handle the whole Pacific zone. They're installed in New Caledonia, where most of their wind turbines are. I think we've got probably about 100, 120 wind turbines in New Caledonia. And then we have wind projects and solar projects all over the Pacific. So we've got some in Micronesia, we've got some in Guam, Australia, Tonga. And we're really looking at helping EFL through their transition in renewable energies. So, yeah.
How does it deal with the cyclones?
It deals well because it didn't get hit too bad by I think, yeah, the first one was Winston. It didn't get hit too bad. Harold was another problem because they, EFL didn't get the wind turbines down in time.
But you can put them down.
Yeah, yeah. We basically use like a hydraulic pump to get the turbine back down.
What are the cons of the
What?
cons of the
Of-
eolian, of the wind energy? Yeah,
Um,
what are the main issues?
So the main issue with wind energy is that you can't find it everywhere. Wind energy, wind doesn't blow whenever we want, so it's not something that we can essentially control. Compared to like geothermal or hydro, which is great because we can store it. I think one of the biggest problems of humanity is being able to store energy properly. There are solutions for trying to stock energy from solar and wind, such as batteries or building dams where you would elevate. If you produce too much energy, you can elevate some water so that when you need to re-release that energy, you can just make it go down. But renewable energies are very geographic dependent, and that's one of their main drawbacks.
Hi, thank you very much for your lovely presentation.
Just one question with regards to if let's say, a small community from the Northern Islands, they want to install one of their wind farms, how feasible is it in terms of cost for a community or groups of community to get a project like this?
I guess it would depend mainly on how much wind they get, and on how much they spend on their electricity and what their consumption is. It'll depend, like if they're all already connected to the grid or not, or are they?
Okay.
Yeah.
So that just in case they want to start a project, they want to have a wind farm. How do they get in touch with the company?
You can get in touch with me.
Through you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll give you my card after. But yeah, like it is feasible. It just depends. On their consumption, basically.
Very costly.
Wind could be costly. Yeah. I think for small villages, what's like optimal out here in Fiji is more having some solar with storage. That's probably the most feasible. Like having a few batteries and some solar, especially in the northern islands where you get a lot of sun. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your presentation. So I just have a question. You mentioned in your presentation about how about biomass, right? So how there's a lot of potential for it. So in what terms are you going to assist, say, communities in a rural district to actually start implementing this or start the process of actually going into this renewable energy? Like, how do you go down to our grassroots level, and process this to the communities? Because as you may understand, that not everybody would be well versed or speaking in English and trying to understand. So how do you maneuver? How do you go about in trying to explain to them this is what you can do if you think that it's feasible enough for them to actually start this biomass?
That's a very good question. Sadly, we don't do any biomass. But from what I see back when I was working in France, we had a lot of farmers who would group up together and use all the bio wastes that they would have to try to make methane from it. So biofuel. It is something that is possible. It's just it takes a lot of work getting people together and motivated for these kind of projects. It's yeah.
All right, building on to biomass. I work for Global Coordinator of Mayors. So we are doing projects in Sabu and Nambasa. I don't know if you heard about Blue Town model in Sabu. So they have just built a new market, and one of the components for energy for the market is using biomass from the market waste. So they will be starting that soon in Sabu market, like all the leftovers, like refuse from the vegetables, the rotten ones and all that. So I think the whole market will be energized using biomass.
Oh wow.
Thank you.
Do you know how much energy it produces, perchance?
No, it's in the process,
Yeah.
but they are doing it.
Okay, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Natasha, and I have I'm a project manager for building developments in the city, and some of my clients are involved in doing bakeries and mass and distribution for their products. My question would be on if you've been or have been part of any information or groups that do heat harnessing the heat for renewable energy.
I haven't. specifically. Well, I know it could definitely be a feasible solution. We, again, back in France, I know we have a few bakers that would use, or cooks that would use concentrated solar power with mirrors to create big amounts of heat for cooking. So that would be a very sustainable way of cooking.
There were some suggestions along the way to build heat sinks that would just harness the heat, but I'm not too sure, and I'm very unfamiliar with that, so I thought you might be a little bit more the expert in that area for me.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it in Fiji.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think it's definitely possible though.
Okay.
Like getting a couple of mirrors and then concentrating all the energy into one point, and then heating up a specific fluid. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. A comment to go back to the biomass at a very small scale. I recently went to Eurêka, and they have like 3 containers for biomass, and they produce not very much energy, but enough for the kitchen, for the hotel's kitchen. So it's only 3 big black bags where
Okay.
they put all their organic waste in it, and they produce enough for the kitchen energy. So that's
Do you know if they get the gas back from this organic matter, and then they would
I think
use
so.
it as gas?
I think it's probably like gas, then
Okay.
not really electricity, more gas. I think. Yeah.
And that's the good thing about using biomass as energy is it's gonna release greenhouse gases anyway. Like cow dung or anything, it's gonna release methane anyways. So by burning it, we're gonna create heat. So use a little bit of that molecule's energy, and then emit carbon dioxide. But the thing is that methane is 3 times as potent as a greenhouse gas. So it'll heat up basically the earth 3 times more than carbon dioxide. So it's better to release carbon dioxide than methane. So it's a good recycling solution.
Merci beaucoup pour l'information. My question is about your firms, your organizations work in other areas of the Pacific. If you have been working with the Pacific, can you provide some examples of some of the projects in more rural areas or maybe more challenging areas, and so far the impact that that's made?
I don't have like specific. I mean, I know we have some wind turbines, for example, in Yap. So it definitely did help reduce that island's energy dependence towards other countries, and it's reduced its carbon emissions. So I guess that would be an example. And then we got a few in Guam also, 3, I believe. And then also a few in Tonga. So
Tonga, what do you do in Tonga?
in Tonga, we've got 3 wind turbines also. And we're currently also working on a new project and some solar projects.
I would like to know what your mandate is exactly, because who are the stakeholders? Like, are you talking to the government? Are you talking to the donors? Are you talking to the private sector? Because I don't think you're going to reach the communities. It's not your mandate. But I'd like you to precise that, so we just understand, what you're doing in the region.
So there are a few ways we can act in the region. We can act as just for procurement, so that would mean order design. So for example, EFL wants to build up a solar project the same way they would want a diesel generator to put on their grid. And then we would just be there and advise them, give them a design, and then procure the material, and they would run the power plant. Another way we can also act is as an independent power producer. So we would handle the whole value chain of the project. So from design to actually operating and maintaining the power plant, and then reselling at a price the electricity to to any energy provider in a country. In more rural areas, I think I saw a few tenders or expressions of interest for NGOs. For example, the UN would want to find some solar installers for rural communities or things like that. So that's basically how we can, provide our help.
So I have three questions, three short questions. One is about the offshore wind rigs in Fiji. Is it relevant or not in terms of technology? The second one is about the hot springs. There are some hot springs in Nandi or Sabu. So is there any potential for geothermal energy here in Fiji? And third one is about sugarcane industry and the project of the government to use part of the production to produce electricity or ethanol. Thank you.
Thank you. So for offshore wind, Fiji's energy doesn't have that big of an energy consumption. I think offshore wind produces a ton of energy. It's good for zones that have very high consumptions, I think, and that do not have coral around also. The fact that there is a coral reef and it would really affect marine life if we had a wind project over there, because we would have to do a lot of drilling. So yeah. And then the second question was about hot springs. So there are different basically levels of geothermal. There's low heat geothermal, medium heat geothermal, and high heat geothermal. Most energy projects are on high heat geothermal to make them cost effective. I think that hot springs are probably like medium or low heat. Yeah, but it's even if they're hot.
You can boil an egg.
Yeah. But we're looking at more like 300 to 500 degrees for high heat, so it's like a very different scale. You can more than boil an egg, maybe 2 eggs. And then the sugar cane, it's definitely a good idea, because any biomass is gonna release its greenhouse gases anyways. It's just important to use biomass projects more as a way of recycling the energy that has been produced from a plant, and not grow some plants to produce energy, because that would mean more monocultures and using space for land, and biomass isn't the most, the amount of energy that you produce per square meter is pretty low with biomass compared to other energies. So it wouldn't really make sense to base your energy system on the use of biomass. It needs to be more of a byproduct of agriculture, I think.
Last question. Wind turbines and birds. I read somewhere that wind turbines are killing migratory birds and they're no longer migrating. Don't you think the same can happen in Fiji, or no?
That's a very good question. Some wind turbines can have an effect wind turbines do kill birds in certain areas. I think it's important to have environmental studies when you start any project, whether it be construction of a building, renewable energy projects, or anything. I know that our wind turbines are quite low compared to most of them. A medium-sized onshore wind turbine is about 90 meters high, and then it could reach maybe 130 with the blade. Our wind turbines are 50 meters high, so it's a little bit lower, and it will reach around 80 to 90 meters with the blade. So it's got a lower outreach, but it is a good question. And but one of the things also is that other things kill birds, sadly. Cats kill so many birds per year, and it's not a question that we address much. Windows are like huge killers of birds. It's crazy, and nobody thinks about them. But it is important to think of the environmental impact when you're going to have a project. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't kill them. That we should kill them. Sorry. Definitely not. Yeah.
Thank you, Mathieu. Just one question. You talk about Fiji's plan on reaching 99% of renewable energy. Do they have a mix in their mind, or is it just a goal and without a precise mix?
From what I've read, it's mostly just a goal. There aren't specific powers allocated to certain renewable energies. Like there isn't like a certain amount of power that they want to reach for solar, or a particular amount that they want to reach for wind power.
Two things. One, to go back to the birds and other impacts on animals. I remember in Australia when there was a big project, wind farm project, and in rural areas, and the farmers were complaining that it was disrupting their sheep. That I don't know, it had some impact on their behavior and things like that. So I don't know if it was really serious or research, but they had some demonstration about that. The other thing is about the policy, to go back to the policy. Do you see that there is I'm an environmental lawyer, so I'm interested in the legal hurdle towards renewable energy in Fiji? Do you know anything about that?
As far as I know, there's no regulations about having an environmental study done on energy projects. It's not the same as what we have in back in Europe, where it's actually quite hard and you have to go through very thorough environmental studies. Yeah, I haven't heard it being a hurdle in Fiji. And maybe it should actually, because it is a very important aspect of the project. Yeah.
Or things that could facilitate the development of the energy. Like, are there any regulations or legislation that would facilitate, as you may have seen in other countries?
I haven't seen any. No. And then for the cattle, I know we have basically we have an agreement with the landowners in Singotoka for our wind turbines, for EFL's wind turbines, and so the landowners let their cows graze on the wind farm. They seem like quite happy cows, so maybe it's just goats. Sheep. No, I haven't heard anything for it bothering cattle or.
Sorry, can I just ask, is Singotoka the only place where you have wind turbines at the moment, or is there another area in Fiji?
Yeah, for the moment it's only in Singotoka. But as I showed on the previous wind map, a lot of areas are actually have a high potential for wind energy. And I think it'll definitely be good prospects for if Fiji wants to attain its goal of 99% renewable energy.
No more questions? Yes.
Just wanted to ask if you've come across any other programs that look at waste to energy.
Yeah, I don't honestly don't know too much about any project on waste or or bioenergies. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No more questions? No? I will let the investor conclude the event.
Thank you so much. Thank you first to Mathieu. That was a very fascinating, comprehensive, and clear presentation. Thank you so much. And also to Roman, because he was taking care of the computer and the slides.
He did such a good job.
Such a smart man. Yeah, thank you so much.
He was reading my mind, it was good.
So I propose to give them a big round of applause. I think we exhausted all questions, all energies. Our batteries are empty, so I propose that we have to load it just next to us with some food and drinks. Thank you so much. Thank you.